The science behind choosing yourself and how it changes your brain and it changes your physical appearance and your emotional capacity. Hello, and welcome to this YouTube channel. My name is Jameelah, and I am a master manifester. I'm sure you are too because you are consuming content like this. The name of this channel is Holistic Manifesting because I believe in a whole body, whole mind, and whole being experience when it comes to manifesting these amazing lives that we are choosing. What I'm discussing today is the science behind choosing yourself. And when I say choosing yourself, I'm looking over here, I'm looking at some notes. It's when you start prioritizing your own growth and your own well-being and your own values, and you start putting what's most important to you in front of things that other people have deemed were more important for you. It's a motivational aspect of like motivating yourself into the best version of yourself, right? And this has deep psychology roots, neuroscience, and even biology. So a lot of times when people say choose yourself, they think it's just some shallow or vain thing. It truly reshapes your life in a way that a lot of people won't admit because they don't really want you to choose yourself, because sometimes choosing yourself means that you won't be choosing them primarily first. Like they won't be the first person on the docket. You will be. And my thought process now that I'm more mature in this area, like how can it ever work for you to put other people on that pedestal first before yourself when you're the one that they want to retrieve things from and that you have to give from your well? It's like going to a dry well, like if you're not being replenished. It's like if the rain doesn't come down and fill the well up, then how are you going to get water out of it? So a lot of people don't care. They just want to deplete. So they'll tell you choosing yourself is selfish, it's self-centered, blah, blah, blah. It is self-centered, but there's nothing wrong with being self-centered, because the self-centered version of you, when you're centering self, that's the version of you that can give the best to the world, that can give things to the world. Being self-centered doesn't mean you can't be generous, you can't be giving, you can't be loving, you can't be nurturing, you can't be kind, right? It doesn't mean that you can't show up for other people in many environments. Being self-centered means that you're always going to make sure that emotionally, mentally, and physically, you're okay first. That your comfort is never going to be up for compromise. Like you're not going to put yourself in discomfort so that other people can feel comfortable. And we do this in so many environments, in so many places, in so many spaces, because we're taught, let me be uncomfortable so other people can be comfortable. Well, what we find is that most people aren't really grateful for that. And what we walk away with thinking is, I shortchanged myself and then these people didn't even care, right? So let's talk about the science behind choosing yourself. First, I want to talk about the brain, how the brain physically changes. So this is the neuroplasticity that we always hear about, how your brain can actually shift into creating new connections and new synapses. Instead of the old way that it was doing a process, you give it a new way and it creates a new connection in the brain, right? So when you shift your mindset and consistently act in ways that support your goals and values, your brain begins to kind of rewire itself. And that rewiring will cause for new neural pathways to be created. And then so like things like patterns of like self-doubt and people pleasing and stuff, they weaken when you don't use them a lot. So when you get out of the mode of like people pleasing others, or like putting yourself last, or like feeling self-doubt, all those wonderful things, not wonderful, but non-wonderful things, but feeling unattractive, feeling undesirable, feeling unwanted, any of those things, unworthy, undeserving. When you stop thinking in those ways, that's why affirmations work, and that's why listening to certain audios work, and meditation works, because it's a process that happens over time. If you are not focused on doing those things that are negative towards you and you're putting your energy somewhere else, if anything, you're weakening the pathways that create the space for that to exist. That's at the bare minimum, right? You're weakening the ability for those things to exist. But on the other hand, when you get to the place where you're not prone to go into self-doubt and unworthiness, you can build and start creating those new neural pathways to be more worthy, to feel more valued, to feel more beautiful, to feel smart, to feel accepted, to feel I already said value, but you get the point. To feel all those things. So if anything, you want to weaken those areas. So when you start working on yourself and start motivating yourself and start feeling good about yourself, it's not an overnight process. What you'll find is that when you start thinking a certain way about yourself, it's going to feel yucky. It's going to feel gross. It's going to feel like it's off because you've already shifted your attention in another direction. So feeling unworthy and all that, you may have a bad day with it. But after that moment, you're just like, I can't be in that space. I've had a much better time rewiring my brain to feel better about myself in these areas. And then also too, when you start choosing yourself in many instances, what we don't realize is that our stress hormones drop. And so stress hormones like cortisol, those kind of things, we already know they create a very negative response in our bodies. They're the ones that have increased heart attacks, increased panic attacks, increased anxiety, increased, what is it called? Insomnia, all those things that we experience when we have high stress hormones. So when people consistently do things like seeking approval and suppress their own needs, their stress hormone levels are recorded as much higher than people who don't do that. When people meet their own needs and they are putting themselves in a proper position of being first in their lives, in their own lives, then that creates a scenario of the stress hormones decreasing. And so we talk about this sort of thing when it comes to having children. Putting your children first in many instances is putting yourself first, because when they're little and they can't take care of themselves, or they're, beyond the point of being able to go make a life for themselves, they are an extension of you. We have to learn how to release that tether at some point, but they are an extension of you to some degree. And so if they're not right, then it's going to be hard for you to be right, because the more that they are not right, or they have stressed out, or they have anxiety and issues, it's going to keep coming back in your life as something that needs to be worked on. And believe me, I've watched parents a lot try to disconnect from their children's problems. And I'm like, it just doesn't work like that. If your child is having anxiety, panic attacks, issues and all of that, it's pretty much your issue. Because if they're an underage and they're dealing with these things, it's something happening in their environment or something they're around that's not being addressed. Whether you are causing it or not, it's just something that's not being addressed. So you'll see those hormone levels drop in your life. And what I've noticed too, even with having children, when I started putting myself first and choosing myself on a regular basis and deciding that I didn't have to show up at an event if I was having anxiety that day. I didn't have to be in a space of people who I felt weren't going to respect what I had going on in my life or whatever. My children got more relaxed, because my oldest daughter, when she was little, she would take on the exact feelings that I had at any given time. And I used to get so frustrated with that, because I was like, I just want to feel bad on my own today. I just want to feel anxiety on my own today. But she couldn't help but feel it. She was that connected to me in that way. And so that's just who she was. And so I couldn't feel sad without her feeling sad. It was just one of those kind of kids. And not the other one. She'd like, oh, wait, something wrong? She ain't even paying attention. But they both got their little things. I remember she was 2 years old. She used to come up to me all the time and say, Mommy, are you happy? She's almost 3. She was she learned how to talk really early, and all she does is talk. But she's like, Mommy, are you happy? When she was really little. And so she's been connected to me in that way for a long time. When I got better, when my anxiety was being managed and I was in a better place and I had less stress in my life, and I started choosing me and I started making decisions that were best for my well-being, she got better almost instantly. It's it was an immediate outcome to it. So a lot of times we don't realize that changing the way that we operate in life and choosing ourselves is actually creating a better experience for everybody around us, right? And it also, on a physical level, reduces inflammation and improves your sleep and enhances your immune functions. So you ever be around people that's always sick? I know I have. And I tell this to people all the time, and I always say, is this real wood? I don't know if this is real wood or not, this desk, knock on wood. But I mean, at this point in my life, I'm 45. I'm 45. So when I think about being younger, the last time I had a flu, sick, whatever, I was 19 years old. And I didn't sit through all of my children's, there was a seasonal going back to school, getting this or getting that when they were, in school when they were little. And then they were homeschooled, so we didn't even have that happening in the house, the sickness thing. Nobody got COVID or anything. We had to get tested for it all the time, over and over again. To go travel, we traveled during that time and everything. And I always tell people I don't get sick. And I hate to say it, in environments, sometimes I've been in environments where people are sick every 5 minutes. Every time you talk to them, they got a sore throat, they got a headache, they got a runny nose, they got some kind of chest congestion. They're like, oh, I'm just getting over a flu and all that kind of stuff. And I always felt like there was a level of stress hormones that they were holding on to or something, or a way that they were showing up in this life that was bringing that deeper into their space. And I'm not saying that everybody has control over whether or not they get sick, once a year or something like that. That's not my position. What I mean is that there can be times in our lives where we're dealing with certain people in certain environments and being in certain spaces to where if we step back and look, and we're getting sick all the time, it's probably in a moment where we're not choosing ourselves. It's probably in a moment where we're self-sacrificing, where we're putting everybody else's needs and what they have going on in front of ours. And we're weakening our immune system by getting into that kind of space. Because the stress hormones, they take over and they stop your body from being able to work in the immune system area, because your body only has so much energy to dish around to all the little processes. And so if it's heavily focused over here with all this people pleasing and all this, self-sacrificing and stuff, it doesn't have the energy that's needed at the end of the day to just like have a good solid, healthy immune system. And so whenever I'm around people or somebody I know and they're always talking about they're being sick, I'm going to keep my distance. And it's not because I think I'm going to get their germs. I've been around all kinds of germs constantly. It's not even about that. It's about where's your mindset? What's going on over there? There's some energetic issues when it's a constant. You were sick 2 weeks ago and you were sick 3 weeks ago. And it's like, now you're sick again. So if you're finding yourself in your life where you're dealing with being sick all the time, there's something physically, mentally, and a lot of times those are all things that matter to choose yourself. You're not doing in those spaces, right? And then when you choose yourself, you get increased dopamine and serotonin. And we already know those are the happy things in our brains. Those are the things people take drugs for. And so when you can like bring that energy into your space without the increased dopamine, the increased without taking the drugs and all that, or drinking or something, it always feels so much better. Right now I'm doing like a juice fast. I've been for the past couple of days. And so like, I'm like my brain's like, I'm wired. I'm like, I got so much to say. I got so much to talk about. I've been drinking all my green tea and like just juices whenever I'm getting hungry and all. And it's so funny because it's like, it like powers you up in a way that like a lot of people take drugs to get powered for, right? And then another thing, the appearance part, I wanted to make sure I talked about that. Everything changes in your appearance, right? Your posture, your body language. So it's like, that's why sometimes you can be around people and you can tell when they start choosing themselves and putting themselves first, or putting work into themselves, or like showing appreciation to themselves. I feel like I'm sitting up too high. There we go. I feel like they're putting appreciation into themselves because their whole body language and posture is going to change. They start sitting up straighter. They start addressing people differently. And so sometimes people are like, so-and-so seems like a whole different person. These are the components, right? You're getting the biological aspect of it. You're also getting the neurological aspect of their change. And then the final part is your physical change. You're going to see it in them, right? And it's almost like an air of more confidence walking around. It's an energetic shift, right? Even their facial expressions, where people would have these facial expressions that didn't work for their looks or their characteristics, and it would kind of make them look off or make them look weird or make them look unappealing to a lot of people. Their facial expressions will start shifting in a way that's more complimentary and more that shows their features in a more graceful and beautiful way. So they're walking around and you're like, I swear you got the same face. You didn't get plastic surgery. You didn't do none of these things, but there's a different version of you that's come forward. And that's what happens when you start choosing yourself, right? Your facial muscles. So like when people talk about the rest in B face, I'm one of those people that always say that I have that. I haven't seen it as much lately though, but I mean, I've always experienced that. But your face muscles will start to relax, and that calm the softness that you've created, it will even make things that used to look like wrinkles go away. I remember I was having hard wrinkles right here. Like I got smile lines because I smile a lot. I was having hard wrinkles right here. And I've noticed over the past couple of years, it's like it was when I was in this connection at the time that I wasn't smiling a lot, especially towards the end, because it was just kind of nerve-wracking. And I was in a work environment right after that where I wasn't smiling a lot and all. And so it's like my face was getting stuck in this I'm mad sort of position. And so when I started putting myself first and choosing myself, even my facial expressions sort of relaxed and they'll smooth out, right? You'll find you don't even need very much makeup. Like I put on a little powder and then walk away. You do a little skincare, you can put on some eyeliner and walk away. Like, you don't even need all these things to sort of enhance you so much, because you are, you have that glow that's coming through anyway. And then let's not even talk about your skin and your eyes and your energy. So I have these notes here, and that's my favorite part. It's a radiant and more energized appearance. It's an appearance that's like, you look healthy, you look fleshed out, you look like you're taking care of yourself, you look like you love yourself, you look like you appreciate yourself. You know what I mean? And I will tell you that it has a positive impact in like 99% of the environments that you go into. The only ones it won't have a positive impact on is where people's trying to be envious or jealous of the glow or shine that you bring into the room. But 9 times out of 10, when you go places, like I always tell people, there's almost nowhere that I go. I went to Trader Joe's this morning and somebody stopped me and was just like, you smell so good. Like, what is that you're wearing? And it's literally just my body oils. Like, it's like patchouli mixed with like lemongrass and like some vanilla. Like, I put them all on and just do, sometimes it's rose oil. I use different ones, and then I might spray a body spray on top. And so I never have like a perfume to give them that when they say that kind of thing. But I feel like it's the whole package. It's the energy that's being exuded, right? Because you're putting yourself on a pedestal that it deserves to be on. It's not about arrogance. It's not about pushing other people down. It's about lifting yourself up, because when you are appropriately lifted, when you are appropriately put on the pedestal of love and appreciation and worthiness and all those wonderful things for yourself, then when people come around you, they can't help but to be lifted by your energy, but to be lifted by your glow, be lifted by your light, be lifted by what you bring into the room. And if they're choosing not to, it's because they're choosing not to. It's not because it doesn't exist, right? And that whole radiant, energetic shift is what you're going to be leaning towards. So sometimes people think that choosing yourself is just about the semantics, just about what's on paper, just about what's working out. Choose yourself so you can have money, so you can, take care of yourself, buy your own things, blah, blah, blah. And all those things are most important. They're important. Choose your own self so you can get the energy drainers out of your life, the haters, this and that. But what people don't realize is what comes after that is a beautiful physical, neurological, biological, and physical shift that some people, you're not even ready for, right? And then you start choosing things better, right? I was listening to a creator the other day talk about people wearing ill-fitting clothing. And he was just like, people can tell when you're choosing yourself, or when you put yourself at a high level of respect by like even just your physical clothing and appearance and stuff like that you wear. He was like, if you got pants that's a little bit too loose or a little bit too baggy or a little bit too short, he was like, take the hem out, go get them tailored. He was like, take the waist in a little bit so that they can fit you properly. And I have that issue all the time because I like the length on pants, but then my pants are sometimes too big. So now if it doesn't come in tall, I just don't buy it because my legs are longer than the average. And I was like, I just don't buy it. So it's one of those things. It's like, you don't even realize that you are having a domino effect in that area. I've watched people, even in my own family, who started putting themselves first and choosing things appropriately for them and taking care of their bodies, taking care of their mindsets. And you see them and they're picking the right hairstyles now. They're picking the right makeup. They're picking the right clothing. They're picking the right shoes. It's like all those things come in handy because all of us have aspects of ourselves that can be enhanced. And there are aspects of ourselves that can be downplayed, and then aspects that we want to enhance. When we're not in that right place, we start enhancing the areas that we don't want to be enhanced. So we start, slouching. We start having the angry face that we can't control. We start having the skin that has blotches and bumps all over it and stuff. We start having the dull look to our hair and all that kind of stuff, which I did my hair and it's so cute, right? People think I go to the hairdresser. I don't like hairdressers. It takes too long. I've come from the trauma of hair salons from the 90s, and I just refuse to ever sit. So I cut it myself, and I dye it, style it, and all that myself. I shave it myself and everything. And you find these things that just work better for you, and you're just like, okay, this is me. You find new clothing styles. You find new ways of being. You even start changing things in your house, getting rid of things. I just brought a big haul to the donation bin yesterday. I mean, moving boxes. I was like, girl, you're not going anywhere. This is the first time in like 6 years that I've gotten rid of moving boxes. And so you start looking at your space thinking, I deserve this, I deserve that, I deserve this. And you start getting rid of things. You start not wanting to be broke. That's another thing. You start choosing yourself first, and you think about all the things you can go buy and do, and you like change your mind sometime because you're just like, I don't really want to be broke. I don't really want to not have, I'd rather have this money sitting here to do these things so that over time it's perfectly okay, right? And then just that, even that relaxation changes the way you walk in the room and walk in spaces, the way you go in stores. You don't go in stores like, oh, I hope I find something on sale. You go in stores and like, if something piques my interest, if something's there that I like, I might grab it. But if not, And your children will do this. My daughters do the same thing. You can't force them to buy something just because. They're like, no, there's something off with the collar. I'll pass. That's a constant thing, right? They never just, I was like, when I was younger, if somebody offered to buy me something, I would have took it no matter how it looked. I would have made it work. That's because that's the mindset I came from. So when you start choosing yourself and getting into that space of being able to see what works best for you in your life, everything about you is going to shift. You even start eating better and you won't even notice. You won't even notice. Your skin's going to look better. You're going to start drinking more water. You're going to start putting your shoulders back when you go in places. You're going to start knowing the exact hairstyles and the exact way to put your hair to work for you. You're going to start knowing the right clothing. You're going to start feeling like the stress relief is removing from your body. You're going to start sleeping better. Let me tell you, I didn't sleep. Years ago, I used to have aids to sleep constantly all the time. I sleep so good now. It's insane. And you're going to notice anything that comes in your life that's trying to take away from that a mile away. You're going to be like, no, there's a science to choosing yourself. And it's not just about being self-centered and like, everything's, I'm more important than everybody else. That is not choosing yourself. That's just being bratty, right? There's a science behind it. And you must have a long, healthy and beautiful life, and to experience life in a more beautiful and especially soft way. That's how you can create a soft life that everybody talks about. It's not about designer clothing and brands and purses and shoes and luxury villas and all this kind of stuff. It's about how relaxed are you at the end of the day? How pleased with yourself are you at the end of the day? How relaxed are your face muscles? How clear is your skin? Are you getting sick all the time? How healthy is your hair? How healthy is your body? How healthy is your relationships with the people around you and stuff like that? Are you able to stand on business when it comes to, I'm not showing up at this event, I'm not going to do that, but here, this is what I have for you. And being able to be okay with people ignoring your efforts because it ain't good enough for them, whatever, you know what I mean? When you get to that place, you'll know, and everything else will start falling into place. And a lot of times people just hate on you because they want to do the same thing, they just don't know how. Where really they should just come to you and say, how do you choose yourself without feeling like this or that and all these things? You'd be better. Anyway, I hope y'all have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day.